What's up, everybody? Ethan here with JD. Back at you with another episode of Coronavirus Sports Boredom. A little bit early for us. It's a little past 11 in the morning, and for me at least, quarantine schedules, that's early, so a little groggy, forgive me. But we'll start it off with some NASCAR action. NASCAR finally returning, and a lot to break down. We had the Darlington Double, 2 races there to start it out. Coca-Cola 600 should have had a race Wednesday night, but not meant to be with the rain. But so much to break down. Just give me your initial thoughts on the return of NASCAR.
NASCAR's good. They're doing it right. They're back. Everything's going good. The races have been fantastic. Even the Xfinity series, it has been decent to watch. Everything going on there. Shout out to my boy Kyle Busch for winning the race on recently on Monday. But it was a good race the other day. I don't know why Chase Elliott pitted on pit road. I mean, cost him the race, really. Congrats to Keselowski for staying here long haul. But, it's been a great race. I know a week ago we had the Busch-Elliott incident, and, that was one of just those tough things that you just got to deal with. But other than that, it's been fun. I feel bad for Chase Elliott, though. He should have probably won 2 races, but
Yep.
NASCAR, and the second one could have been prevented by his team. But, yeah.
So you bring up the call by his crew chief. He was running away with that race, and then we get a caution flag late, going to a green-white checker in the Coke 600, and he's coming down pit road for 4 tires at the end there. To me, that's just not enough time to make up all that track position. I mean, he made it up to 3rd, but here's the thing. If Chase stays out and Jimmy and Brad go in and make a pit stop, Jimmy Johnson, Brad Keselowski were running 2nd and 3rd at the time. I think enough cars stay out to provide enough of a buffer for Elliott where Keselowski and Johnson aren't coming out in 2nd and 3rd, and I think he's able to hang on and win that race. It's unfortunate because the leader is the guy who has to make that call, but to me, that's not enough time to make up that track position.
Yeah, and I understand the call. I mean, you're expecting something different, but it didn't play out how they thought. But 2 laps to go. I don't think you should pit there. But it worked for some people like Kurt Busch. He pitted, and not Kurt, Kyle, and he moved up a little. Then Kurt stayed, but he actually took advantage of everyone going to pit, and he finished in the top 10. So there's different ways of seeing it all, but Keselowski won, and that's the story of the longest race with NASCAR.
Yeah, the other thing about that is it's not Darlington, right? Darlington, you need fresh tires. It's the track too tough to tame, and they don't call it that for nothing. But Charlotte, it's probably a difference of under a second on fresh tires versus worn tires. So not enough for Chase to make up all that ground, in my opinion. But that, as we touched on earlier, that's not the only incident Chase was involved in that Wednesday night race at Darlington about a week ago, getting turned right at the end before the rain hit by Kyle Busch. So in your opinion, is that just a racing accident? Is that a misjudgment?
No, of course it's a misjudgment. No, it's nothing ill-intended. I think everyone knows that. Chase Elliott's team knows that too. It's nothing. It's just one of those things that happens. Kyle didn't mean it to happen. Just it's a misjudgment, as he said. And he has a lot of friends on Elliott's team too, so it's nothing personal. But it's just one of those things that he made a mistake on.
Yeah.
Everyone was on for him. Of course, Elliott's going to be mad. Anyone in their right mind is going to be mad. But he moved on for it, and I'm sure he's probably even more frustrated now that Keselowski beat him in the 600.
Yeah, and I agree with you here. Like, you hear the call, you hear, you see Kevin Harvick coming up on him. He feels like he needs to get into that upper lane or he'll be left out to dry. And I'm pretty sure a spotter tells him he's clear, and then you hear a spotter go, I screwed that one up. And so, we know Kyle Busch he's a bit of an interesting personality, but people can be too hard on him sometimes, especially when Kyle comes out and says, this was my fault. He's not going to do that if it wasn't his fault, and if it wasn't just a mistake, if it wasn't just a misjudgment. So I definitely think this is just driver error. It's unfortunate that it cost Chase Elliott possibly a win in that race. It sucks for him, but that one is what it is. And even the best, even Kyle Busch, who is the best driver in NASCAR right now, will make that mistake occasionally.
Yeah. But Elliott's a great upcoming racer too. But I mean, other than that, NASCAR's been pretty fantastic. I'm always excited to watch NASCAR, and I like seeing the Xfinity Series, even my boy Kyle winning there. But it's one of those things where with the Elliott Kyle Busch accident, it just happened. So got to move on for it. But if you don't have anything else, do you want to move on to NHL and their plan to come back and how the Blackhawks are actually going to be in the playoffs now?
Well, one more note in NASCAR too. You remember that in the Coke 600 at the start of that race, with that tungsten ballast added to the car to make it meet the weight requirement, just falling off of Hamlin's car, and as a result of this, and I know that it's dangerous, but a 4-race suspension for his crew chief and a couple of other key members of his crew, automatic suspension. I mean, to me, that seems a bit too much for that. Like, that's not even the crew chief's fault. I mean, you're talking about he wasn't the dude who shoved that ballast in there insecurely. Like, why is that on the crew chief? I don't know.
Well, he's the top guy. I mean, it always goes from the top to the bottom. Engineer got suspended too. But the rules are rules too. So I mean, it's one of those tough things. I don't agree with it totally, but one of those tough things where you just got to accept the penalty and move on. I mean, Danny Hamlin's a great racer. He'll figure it out. And it showed that he struggled in the 600. Being flapped. But it's one of those incidents again, like Kyle Busch, you just got to deal with. But it is a little exaggerated, but rules are rules. So
yeah, and I guess you can see why it is, because that fell off on a pace lap. But if that thing falls off in the middle of a race, that is not just going to do damage to a car. That is an actual safety hazard. So I get why it is what it is. I feel for Denny's squad and the guys who did get suspended. Likely not the guys who shoved that piece of ballast in insecurely. So I see both sides. I see why it needs to be what it is, but I also feel for those guys.
And also a quick shout out to Ryan Newman for returning to. Major respect to that man for coming back. But one thing too I want to say is that Joe Gibbs Racing with Hamlin and all this crew being suspended, they're the greatest racing what do you call them, managements ever. So I mean, major shout out to them with Busch, Truex, and Hamlin, and those are the top 3 guys. And last year they were the 3 out of 4 in the final. So they earned that respect. So even with Kyle Busch's incident, it's nothing ill-intended like that. It's that reputation. It's not like if it was the other way around with Elliott, some people would say.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's his confrontation. But with Hamlin, that's why maybe they should have given him a little leeway, because it's nothing like. It wasn't like that. Their engineer or what a guy was. Obviously, they don't want that to happen, but maybe the suspension was a little overdone. But rules are rules.
Yeah, and you bring up the teams. So many great teams right now. You got Joe Gibbs, but now you got the resurgence of Hendrick Motorsports. You got Kevin Harvick performing well. Just NASCAR in such a great place right now. But we could talk about it all day, but we should probably move on. The plan in the NHL you brought up, approved by the Players Association, approved by the league, it would have a 24-team playoff, meaning our Chicago Blackhawks get in. So 2 hub cities, Eastern Conference and Western Conference playoffs will be played in one place. No set date, but what are your thoughts for this plan? How do you think it can work?
Well, they're supposed to go back to spring training in a week or 2, or maybe 2 weeks actually. But Canada, they were originally going to do one Canadian city, one U.S. city. Problem with Canada is their 14-day quarantine and all of that, and players, and it's probably not going to work. So most likely it's going to be probably in their original city that they planned, and then maybe a Pittsburgh. Chicago was on the list, but that's not going to happen with Lightfoot and the whole Illinois mess here. With Illinois being one of the top states with cases, I guess. But probably going to be maybe a city like Pittsburgh or another southern place. But we'll see what happens. I think the plan's great. I think they did it right. I don't have no problem with it. I think It was obviously passed by the NHLPA Players Association, but I'm happy for them. I think they did good. I think we were waiting a little too long. They should have tried to get this approved sooner to get their plan. That's why I think all the leagues are a little behind. Because sure, the plans change every day, but you should still have a goal that you want to reach. So I'm happy with it. I just wish they were done a little sooner because if they have this plan already, then players that are going to the playoffs, maybe at home, could be conditioning each day. Like the Blackhawks.
Yep.
Blackhawks probably never thought they would get it. So, but it's one of those things where it's great. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, shout out to the NHL for sure, kind of taking the lead with this whole thing. And, we've heard so much in the MLB about pay cuts and fights about that. And I get that the MLB has more of a season left to play, so that's more of an issue. But the NHL right now, I feel like that was very smooth with the Players Association approving that plan, the league approving that plan, and now they're ready to go into action whenever duty calls, I guess. I think that they really took the lead. They took initiative. They did it right. And now we're seeing leagues like the NBA, which I called out earlier, finally coming to life, making stuff happen. The NFL patiently waiting. The MLB, at least I have Korean baseball and the NC Dinos to cheer for. 17-3, by the way. But the point is, kudos to the NHL for taking the lead in this whole thing. It would suck to be one of those 7 teams that didn't make the playoffs, but at least you get entered in the draft lottery.
Oh, and also I think Las Vegas would be a great city. Also, I was proud to say that, but Las Vegas would be a great city for the NHL and maybe other places. But speaking of the MLB, like you said, real fast, I want to add. I personally, I don't think there might be a season. I don't think we're going to be a season this year, possibly just because of the whole entire pay cut issue. I mean, guys making $30 million, now they're going to make $7 million. Guys making the minimum of $562K, whatever it is, going to make half of that, well, less than half of that, 80%. But I don't know. I just see too many problems. MLB needs to figure out their stuff quickly. But yeah. I do think the NFL, they're not worried. I think they'll be fine. They'll have some fans in arenas, I think, too. I don't think some stadiums probably totally empty, but NFL's they're I think they're cleared for fall. But again, it changes all the time. But
yeah, well, you bring up the MLB. Let me go off on that a little bit because I can't even believe what's going on right now. I mean, you got guys who are making $30 million a year. You got a Bryce Harper or whatever, $30 million a year, and he's coming out and complaining.
I agree. No, I agree with the complaining though a little bit because here's the thing. Why they were promised originally about half of their pay? Why should they go play half a season when they're going to get 20% of their contract? That's kind of absurd. The guy's making the minimum. Everyone's mad across the table. The guy's making the minimum. The guy's making the high. The guy's making the average. So why should you, as a player, sure you want to play. You sign that, like, why should you go out there and play a full half of the season and get paid a quarter of what you would usually get paid? So, if you're gonna, here's the thing: the MLB needs to figure out if you're gonna pay the players their 20% of their contract, or whatever the exact number is, then make the season equal with that a little bit. You got to align it right, or at least have some. Yeah, you got to make it where the players aren't feeling that they're doing more than they should just because the MLB wants to get back. You got to protect the players too, which is why I side with the fact that the guys deserve their money. They signed the contract. It's their families. Their hard work.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that, but you got guys, and talk about ownership. You have people who can take a pay cut, can take a little bit of a hit. You got the guys who signed the mega deals. You've got the owners with billions of dollars who are, worried about losing a little bit of that, and they're just butting heads right now. Here's the thing, like,
but it is their money too, which you got to respect.
I feel for the guys who have just signed rookie contracts, 1-year deals, kind of those journeyman players who need to get paid. And I feel for those guys, and I can see why they're advocating. But why is a guy like Bryce Harper coming out and making a statement? Like, what is $15 million to Bryce Harper?
Here's the thing: it's his hard-earned money. It can't be a thing where the guy's making $30 million. It can't be the thing where everyone's making almost the same amount of money. That's turning socialism a little bit. You don't take from the wealthy and turn it into the thing so everyone gets paid so you can have a damn season. The thing you got to deal with is that those guys earn their money, their talent, they sign their contract. So you got to make it equal with the games they're playing. And the owners, even sure they might be a little greedy, but you got to understand too that they're it's their money. I mean, they work for it, they earn it, and MLB is gonna have to figure it out if they choose to do no fans or in different cities, or whatever. They're just gonna have to figure it out with their endorsements, TV, and whatever. I'm sure they can figure out. I'm pretty sure MLB has enough money, as crazy as it is. And so many teams have such large salary caps too. I mean, Yankees, different things. So there's enough money. There's enough money that's floating around for them to make this work. If you're going to have an 82-game season, you should match it up with the salary a little more. I think they're close to it. But what they just proposed with the $30 million and the $8 million, that's, in my opinion, that's never going to work with the players because you would see the players outrage. 95% of the players hate it, so it's not going to happen.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's not a question of, I'm Bryce Harper. It's not a question of, do I get paid my full salary or do I get paid half my salary? It's a question of, do I show up and play and get half of my money? Do I get $15 million or do I just not play?
He's not going to get 15, though. They're saying he's going to get 8. So why would he show up for half a season if he's going to get a fourth of his salary? And then the guy, it's just not just. If you're in that position, sure, you might just take the money because we're grateful for it. But those guys, that's what they whatever. It's his decision. So that's why I'm not against the whole idea of them saying that.
And I think it's great that the Players Association is advocating for their guys. But simply
don't play half a season then. That's what they got to decide. They can't play half a season. Here's the thing. They promised it. If they didn't promise it, it'd be a different idea. In the beginning, they said, we'll get you half your salary. Don't worry about it. That's where they went wrong because it changes all the time. And once you did that, they ruined it.
To me, though, this is just an unprecedented situation. I get there's guys who have families who need to provide for them, but that's not most of them. Most of these dudes are just chilling out in their massive mansions, and or at least the guys like probably Blake Snell and certainly Bryce Harper who are speaking out about it. So my point is, and I'm not saying, I guess I shouldn't say a decision should be made one way or the other. I don't know what these guys are going through. I shouldn't call somebody out for not wanting to play. But simply put, I feel like one thing that's been lost in this entire affair with the MLB is the entire concept of love for the game and guys who simply want to go out and play. And part of that is a product of these mega $1 million contracts. I don't grudge these guys anything. I think it's awesome. But here's the thing. You used to have MLB players back in the day who would work a second job in the offseason just to get by. These guys were members of their community. They were not guys who got paid a crazy amount of money to do it. And to some degree, I think that's spoiled people a little bit. Yes, the player agency is good. Ultimately, Curt Flood's crusade and helping guys get paid more and get more rights, that's been great for the league. But there's a point where it sometimes goes a little bit too far.
But the thing is, too, baseball is a job now. It's changed where it's their job. If you're going into work and you're working 12 hours a day, but they're only going to pay you for 3 hours, that's the same concept. Baseball is their job. They don't have any other job. That's how the game is. So if you're going to work and you're supposed to work, let's say you're working 50 hours a week, and they're only going to pay you for a quarter of that, you're going to be pretty upset. And that's the same thing with baseball. Sure, you might love the game, but again, it's business. It's a job. That's how it is. So that's the name of the game. That's the nature of it. So we'll see what happens, though.
I guess you have to treat it like that.
Because it is a job. That's how it is nowadays, and it's always going to be like that. Every sport is. That's what those guys they get paid the big bucks to go entertain people because that's their job. So.
Yeah, and whether or not I like that, I definitely think sometimes money has made the game a lot less pure, but I do have to agree with that. I have to agree.
Well, it's so big now; they got to put the money somewhere. So players get it.
Yeah, and ultimately the growth of baseball has brought a lot of good things about, but definitely some negative side effects as well.
Well, before we blow up the internet about MLB with a bunch of people probably going to yell at us if they ever heard this, even though no one probably will. Let's move on to the legend, Jerry Sloan, the former Chicago Bull player. He coached Utah Jazz with Karl Malone and Stockton. They've played the 98 Bulls and 97 Bulls in the finals. Major shout out to him. Great coach, great man. Rip him. Rip his pray for his family. Hope they're all doing good. But legend. He healed Parkinson's disease and a couple different things. But just want to shout out him here. Any quick word, Ethan, for Sloan?
Yeah, for me, I just want to share one stat about Jerry Sloan. And we're talking about, and back in his career as a player, he was obviously a terrific coach and mentor. But the first guy to have his number retired with the Bulls. And just one quick stat: this is a guy who's 6'5", 195 pounds in his playing days. He averaged for a career 7.4 rebounds a game, and I think that says it all about Jerry Sloan. He was a guy who just had the will to get things done. He was one of those dudes who maybe he didn't have the crazy talent of a Michael Jordan, but, nicknamed Charlie Hustle, this was a dude who played the game the right way. And I think he brought that same intensity, that same love for the game to coaching. And I think that's what made him such a great one. This is a guy who's, Illinois born and bred, really just a really cool guy. And I love his drive. I think that stat really says a lot about him for a 6'5" dude to be pulling in a 6'5" small forward and guard to be pulling in 7.4 rebounds a game. That just says a lot about the hustle and the effort of this guy. So, huge shout outs to Jerry. May he rest in peace, and thoughts and prayers to him and all.
Totally. Yeah, he's a legend. He was a shooter too. But moving on to soccer real fast. The German league returned, and you see those cardboard cutouts. That's funny, but in the stadium. But we're going to do a quick power rankings. You want to do like a top 3 or something, or?
Yeah. Top 3 sounds good.
We'll start at number 3. Who do you got at number 3?
Yeah. So for me, it's a close one between Dortmund and RB Leipzig. I ended up going with Leipzig here. They got a solid goalkeeper here, and Peter Galassi, I think is how you'd say his name, Peter Galassi, out of Hungary. That's why I can't pronounce his name. He's been very solid for them. But obviously they've been led by Timo Werner. His very, very good play. The German, 24 goals for Timo on the season. This to me is a solid team. They're a little bit behind the top 2, but to me they're solidly in the top 3, just like they are in points over the next couple of teams, of which I unfortunately can't pronounce their names, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I think the 3 spot can be anyone's game. I got Leverkusen here. I think they're the 3rd best team in the league. They got a solid defender, one of probably the best defenders in the league. But got them at 3, and then at 2, I got Dortmund. The famous team that clashed with Bayern the other day, and Bayern won. I got them at 2. I think the top 2 are pretty obvious. But what do you got at 2?
Sure, I got my number 2 is also Dortmund. Dortmund's one of those teams. They're interesting because they don't really have one superstar player like Timo or with Bayern. They don't have what's his name? They don't have Robert Lewandowski. They don't have a Lewandowski on their team. They're probably led offensively by Jadon Sancho, midfielder. He's got 14 goals, 16 assists. Terrific stats, especially for a midfielder.
Well, they have a Goatsy too. He's a goat. I love Goatsy and Hummels. They have a lot of the German national teams.
And they don't have one guy who's crazy good, but they have 3 guys with double-digit goals, and that's not something you see a lot. Most teams have one guy who will carry them. So they got 3 guys, including Sancho with 10+ goals, and if they can get a little better goalkeeping out of Roman Bürki, who's the Swiss native, who just hasn't really been at the standard of some of the other top goalies. Emmanuel Neuer, who's obviously set the standard in that league for a while now. They can get a little bit better out of him. They could possibly even leapfrog Bayern for that top spot. So.
And they're not going to leapfrog Bayern, even though they do have Bruce, Götze, and different guys. But Bayern Munich's the best team in that league. They always will be. They always have, for the most part. You got Lewandowski going like this to the fans the other day. He was funny. Got a good team. They're the majority. They make a majority up of the German national team, though, and along with Dortmund, those 2 teams. But Bayern, as they proved the other night, they're the best team in the league. And
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that. That clutch 1-0 win over Dortmund, correct? And Lewandowski, 27 goals on the season, a whopping 119 shots. He is just an absolutely terrific. He's almost like the Lou Williams of soccer. He's just a professional scorer. And then, of course, big shout-outs Manuel Neuer. As a goalie myself, I mean, this guy is a little bit.
He's an insane goalie.
A little bit what you aspire to be. Even at 34 years old, this man is still the best in the world.
The Germans have the best two goalies, Ter Stegen and Neuer.
Some terrific saves. He is a beast. So Manuel Neuer still the best, and that a terrific team. So definitely Bayern, in my opinion, the top team in the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
And 7 points clear right now of Dortmund. So
yeah, they had a huge 3 points the other night. But we're gonna move. Everyone's been seeing speculation with Tyson and versus Tyson even that came out. Tyson Fury versus Mike Tyson. I love Mike Tyson coming back. They're gonna announce the fight sometime this week. Tyson Fury had a shot. Doesn't look like it's gonna go through, but I love Mike Tyson coming back. What are your quick thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, how about it? We got, what is he, 53 now, Mike Tyson? And
yes, 56 or something. I don't know. I forget. Something like that. Yeah.
Mike Tyson's like, it's no joke. But what people can't forget is Larry Holmes, like at the age of 50, when he was still finishing up his career. Crazy that he did it for that long. But Mike Tyson's not that much older than Larry Holmes when he was 50, and he beat Butterbean, who not a lot of people, a lot of people get a laugh out of Butterbean, but the guy was actually a pretty terrific fighter. So, you look up some Butterbean highlights, that's pretty legit. The man was no joke, had a terrific record in both boxing and MMA. But Larry Holmes was able to do it with a little bit of a belly at 50 years old, was able to get that win. I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Tyson could do it as well. And you've seen the man in the gym. He's been grinding, and we've seen such a change in Mike's personality. Honestly, he's just Mike's a super cool dude. Has become a great influence on the world, which is something that people probably couldn't have imagined years ago. But for him to want to come out and do this for charity is great. I just think he's, you got to protect yourself. The man's had a long career in the sport, has taken some punishment. Would hate for him to have any sort of serious injury, particularly brain injury from this sort of thing. But I think it's great that he's doing his part. And heck, man, I think he could still knock some people out for sure.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, he's one of the top heavy hitters. But real fast, too, NBA with Disney, we talked about the sports going back. I hope the NBA can come back. A lot of players say yes, no, they won't, they will. It is what it is. We'll see what happens. I hope they can maybe come back, but they have a lot of problems work out, and they haven't done anything. NBA's probably been the least productive team in all this, so we'll see what happens there. But
yeah, I mean that. Again, similar to the NHL, and I feel like the NHL kind of pushing the NBA into action. So this could be a good thing too. People don't realize, people think about Disney, they think about Mickey Mouse and a couple roller coasters and rides and crap like that. And Disney's all well and good, but the ESPN Wild World of Sports is very legit and would be a great place to hold this, aside of all the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, Mickey Mouse and Friends fun over there. So there's a very real serious side to Disney, and I wouldn't be surprised if this works out. I think that would be great.
And also a quick shout out to Eddie Sutton, who died. Another legend who passed. He went at a lot of colleges, four in particular.
Yep.
OSU legend too.
Sad that
shout out to him. Yeah.
Sad that Eddie won't be able to see his enshrinement in the Hall of Fame, especially with coronavirus and whatnot pushing this back. But just at the end of the show, we got to give a big shout out.
Also, too, but before we end the show, quick shout out to Brady, Manning, Tiger, and Phil.
Oh yeah. that was definitely a lot of fun, and anytime you can have live sports, and that was a blast. So yeah, definitely shout out to those guys. And I guess finally, before we close, in terms of closing notes, just some breaking news to pass along. We just heard about this this morning. The Premier League coming back possibly June 17th with their plan. This is quick to put it into action, but just great to hear about more and more sports coming back. So breaking news, and I guess we'll leave you with that note. So thanks for joining us today. And for me and for JD, stay safe and have a good one.